That's a nice little background music. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Financial Literacy 101. Today, I just want to briefly go over some Black-owned banks that you guys may not be familiar with. But Black-owned banks, they're a large resource in the Black community that a lot of people may not be aware of, and how they offer to the Black community, people like you and I who may be suffering, who probably can't get a loan from a large traditional white organization, a white bank, but they do cater to the Black community. And a lot of us are so unfamiliar with these banks that we don't even know who to go to get support, to get funding, to get a loan. But before I go there, I know Ice Cube has been a really hot topic lately with his contract with Black America, even though that this plan has been out since August. Here it is, October, but nonetheless, starting from the grassroots, it has been gaining a lot of momentum, which I absolutely love. But I want you to hear what he has to say a little bit about poverty with Black Americans and also Black banks in America, okay, according to white banks. So let's get into that really quickly. Let me share my screen with you. This is a session that he was talking about when he was on, what do you call it? Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talk, okay? So that is stemming from that. All right, let's play some of this.
And we don't have the money to get the new Jordans this year because we broke. That's how they make us think. We ain't got enough money for y'all because we broke. But America creates currency. It's a currency creator. That's why whenever there's a war, they go click, 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 and then the billions are there.
Yeah.
Whenever this pandemic, click, 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 3 trillion is there. They always say inflation is going to run high if you print money, but inflation hasn't moved. So the money is there to help the communities. We just got to push the politicians to do it.
That is so real.
The crazy thing about it is, I mean, you just saw it happen. You just saw the government fire.
That's Van Jones. He's a CNN supporter.
$1 trillion cannons.
CNN political analyst or something like
the whole
that.
Time. So, you know, I remember when $1 trillion was a lot of money. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot of money. This regime has fired $3 trillion, and they might do another $1 trillion before Thanksgiving. So what he's talking about is true. It's reality. And the Fed has leaned in so far to make sure the stock market stays up. Look, you see people don't have jobs, people walking around here, people getting evicted by the gazillions right now while we're talking, don't have health care, can't see a doctor, but the stock market's through the roof. Why? Because of the Fed. Black people never talk about the Fed. Cube is causing a whole bunch of problems. I'm telling you, if you start glitching right now, it's not your computer.
That's true. Stop talking that real.
I always be saying stuff like that, and people be looking at me like, no. And I'm like, no, this is real. Like, they're just... And people think that that's not how it works, but it does. Yeah. And it's a real issue. Right.
Yeah. The whole thing is we can't be really looking out for too many other people because we are pretty raggedy right now. It's time for us to get it together. Yeah. Yes. We got to understand we're living in a capitalistic society that only respects money. Yeah. This society, money is their God. It's not our God, but it's their God. And we have to respect it as such. They don't care about people as much as they care about money. And until we get a hold of some of that, we're going to be treated like we have none of it. And that's what's happening. They've made us the weakest link in the chain. So you got to tighten up the weakest link. And you know, it's systematic.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of black banks.
I talked to a leader of a black bank, and I said, well, what if we got
so this is important right here,
fam.
Let me pause it right here. Let me go back just a tad here.
Leader of a black bank. And
black banks are able to give loans to customers with lower credit scores, okay, because they understand that the black community have been targeted financially and economically to do horribly poor. So black banks are a resource for us to go out and actually attain the funding that we need to start that business, the money that we need to build that house, okay? So there's a lot of essential benefits going to a black bank versus your conventional banks because they're not hardcore so much on your credit score like a conventional Bank of America, Wells Fargo bank will be. Let them finish, and then we're going to get some of those black banks that you guys may want to know about.
Said, well, what if we got government to pump more money into your bank so you can lend more money to black people? He said, we don't really want government money because they're going to put so many regulations on it. Our customers can't jump through all these thresholds that they have to meet the loans. Nobody really meets all these crazy requirements. So the key is to go in there and try to break down those regulations in a way and say, look, black money to a black bank, we got to do things the black way. You know, we got to be able to tailor make something for our customers. So those things are mucking up the system where, you know, the money can't flow like it should.
Cube 100% correct. If you go to the government and have the government do it, they're going to put in so much red tape or whatever, you're going to wish you would even not have the conversation half the time.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy at JP Morgan who they did an experiment where they lent money to over 400 people who normally couldn't get a loan at a regular bank. They kind of eased off the restrictions and let these people get a loan. He said, do you know how many people did not pay their loan back? I said, how many? He said, 2.
Wow.
2. So when we get money and we're responsible, we pay it back because we know if we don't, they're going to give it to us. So we are trustworthy.
So let me get into some of these black banks, family, so you guys can have a resource essentially. You guys can have a resource essentially of where, you know, you can get some of this money at when it comes to at least borrowing from your own. That I'm gonna read this a little bit before we get into the actual banks that they have on his website at rebuildcreditscores.com. I want to make sure I give them their credit for this. Rebuildcreditscores.com. Now, this is imperative that you guys understand this information, especially if you want to go into business or you want to buy your own home. Now, it says here, Black-owned banks have a long-standing history in predominantly African-American communities. One of the first Black banks came out of the Freedmen's Bureau. In an attempt to transition newly freed enslaved Africans, Congress and President Lincoln established the Freedmen's Bank on March 3rd, 1865. Okay. What this passage does not have is that Freedmen's Bank was actually robbed by a couple of white mob people. They robbed the freaking bank, but nonetheless, the Freedmen's Bank aided African Americans' financial literacy when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed back in 1863. African Americans own less than 1% of the country's wealth. Now, as you can tell, this next one say, unfortunately today, the percent has barely changed, according to educator and historian Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay, again, Dr. Claude Anderson is the gentleman who wrote Powernomics, okay? Dr. Claude Anderson, okay? Very intelligent man. He's the one who actually did the study. I have his whole book collection right here. I keep this here because every now and again I go and I read a chapter or two. Now, what's important about this, it says here that African Americans own less than 1% of the country's wealth. Now, what we don't know is this. Did you know that today we only own 2.5% of the country's wealth? That our white counterparts are 20 times have more money in the bank than we do? This has nothing to do with disparities because we're not essentially doing well. It's because it's constructed this way. But I believe if we do more business with Black-owned banks, this can be another method of decreasing that wealth gap. Okay, so let's get into some of these banks. Now, I like to read some of this pertinent information that they put in bold text. Black-owned banks remain a vital resource for African Americans as a wealth building tool. Black-owned banks offer access to traditional banking services and products where other banks fall short. Black-owned banks provide 67, listen to this, Black-owned banks provide 67% of mortgage loans to African Americans, according to 2013 remarks by Martin Gruensberg, former chair of the FDIC, which is the Federal Department Insurance Corporation. While non-Black owned community banks had fewer than 1% of mortgages going to African Americans. Okay, that's your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, and your JP Morgan and Chase. Again, Black-owned banks provided 67% of mortgage loans to African Americans, whereas though non-African American banks had fewer than 1% of mortgages going to Black Americans. Okay, it also says here, Black-owned banks provide the majority of business loans to churches, small businesses, and community organizations in African American communities. Okay, so here's a few banks that this website have comprised, and I've done a review on One United Bank. Okay, One United Bank. I'm not going to read everything word for word, but again, this information has come rebuildcreditscores.com. I'm just going to make you vaguely familiar where you guys can actually go out and obtain a loan for maybe your small business or even for a house or so. Okay. Now, One United Bank is one of the largest banks with assets totaling $670 million, which compared to a Wells Fargo or Bank of America, unfortunately, it doesn't even come close. But nonetheless, it's still in business for us. And the only reason, again, to decrease that wealth gap is to have access to capital. And believe it or not, loans is a source of access to capital in order to build your business. Okay, you need money if you don't have it in the bank, you haven't saved it over time to actually build your business. And a bank like One United could possibly help you out. Now it's going over the checking account details, how you get paid 2 days early. You have to open up your checking account with a $50 deposit. Some of you may want to get into and give them a call and see what they have. You want to open up a small business and what does it take to actually get that through? Because you know, when you go through an investor palace, you go through a traditional conventional bank, they want a lot of information. They want a business plan. They want a list of your assets. They want how much money you have in the bank. Because at the end of the day, if you falter on that loan, they want to take everything you have in order to pay it back. Okay. So I need for you guys to go out and research some of these Black-owned banks that we're briefly going through. That way you don't have an excuse why you could not start your own business. You don't have an excuse why you couldn't go out and build or buy your own home. Carver Federal Savings Bank, as the nation's second largest Black-owned bank with assets totaling $664 million, this bank was founded back in 1948 and is actually named after George Washington Carver. Okay, it also is known as Carver Federal Savings Bank, offers a variety of checking accounts for customers and investors. Over 80% of its deposit into neighborhoods it serves. And it has your checking account details, $10 monthly service fee or zero fee waive, a direct deposit total of $500 per month. Now, usually I don't like banks that charge you a monthly fee, but if you change your direct deposit with them, and if that direct deposit is at least $500, which most of them are, that $10 per month maintenance fee, so to speak, or service fee is absolutely waived. Okay. Then you have the Carver Code checking, $25 monthly fee, or with a direct deposit of $1,500. Okay. Some of these fees I think they can actually get rid of, That way they can actually increase their membership. Okay. They got your Carver savings, relationship savings. Let's move on. Liberty Bank. Liberty Bank, as the nation's next largest Black-owned bank with assets totaling $601 million. Liberty Bank is available in Alabama, Illinois, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Michigan. Liberty Bank offers a variety of checking accounts for customers, okay? And they have a list of their first accounts, personal checking accounts, all types of savings accounts. But again, this is a brief overview of a lot of Black banks that I hope that you guys are actually writing down so you can go and you can exploit all of them. You're like, yeah, I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call that one, I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call that one. Because the way that banking systems that were primarily created by white Anglo-Saxons, immigrants of Europe in this country, your credit score is essentially your report card. And they would like to, it's a play on words because essentially, ladies and gentlemen, how long does it take you to bounce back from a grade? Take, for instance, if you was in high school or college and you was a B average student and you turned in a term paper, right? And your term paper, you just totally flunked, you totally failed that term paper. You got a 60%. That 60% can make that B average of anywhere from 80 to 89 go down to a C or sometimes even a D grade, correct? But that very next paper, if you got a 100% or even 90%, 9 times out of 10, you'll be back up in the 80 percentile with your B student. When it comes to credit scores, it's much more complicated than that. One bad mark on your credit score can drive your score down anywhere from 5 to 50 points, depending. And if it stays on your credit report and you never take care of it, I would just like for you to know, imagine a pie. Within that pie, there's 5 sectors. Your credit history is 35% of your credit score. It is the largest percent of your credit score pie that will affect your credit score. That will affect your credit score. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, okay? Because take, for instance, let me see. I like to show people because, I'm not bragging or anything like that on my credit score, but I like to show people my credit score because I think it's imperative. I'm up here writing credit. It's imperative for you to see things like this, for you to understand how they break these credit score down, and that you have to be a really great steward of your income, because there's a percentage of our population that getting a loan and they default on the loan, they now believe that when these bill collectors call them, they get upset because they owe them money. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not how it works. Okay. So let's look into this really quickly. Here's my current credit score. Here's my credit score. If you want to, let me go over here. Here's my account right here. That's my name. Okay. And I scroll down here. I'm at a 739. Now, if you can tell, in August, I was at a 683. That's because I bought a house. And anytime you buy a house that costs the amount that this house costs, a little bit over $300,000, it took a big drop down in my credit score. But I understood that. Okay. So we have to understand that these banks are here for us. And regardless of your credit score, you might have an opportunity to actually get a loan. Okay. To actually get a loan and actually go out and have the opportunity to start a business or buy a home. Okay. I agree with you, Born Majesty. This channel does need to be bigger. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Industrial Bank, as the nation's 3rd largest Black-owned bank with assets totaling $432 million, It is located throughout the District of Columbia. Industrial Bank offers a variety of checking accounts for consumers. Now, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I actually saw Industrial Bank and did not know, listen to this, and did not know this was a Black-owned bank, and neither did anyone I ever became involved with any, because, you know, when I grew up, D.C. was around 65 to 70% Black. No one never said, hey, man, go open up a bank account with Industrial Bank. Not only does it cater to Black people, it's Black-owned, and it's helping the Black community. You get what I'm trying to say? We don't even advertise our own. We don't even advertise our own, and that's what we started needing to do. I wish I knew that this bank existed when I was living in D.C. I would have actually put my money into that, because when you bank with a bank, when you have your direct deposit going to a bank, you are investing in that bank, because they use your money. They use your money to put inside the stock market and make more money. Okay? Let's understand that. Broadway Federal Bank. This bank is located in Los Angeles. This is another Black-owned bank with assets totaling $443 million. And it says here, for over 70 years, Broadway Federal Bank has been serving the community. This is another Black-owned bank right there in Los Angeles, if none of you guys are familiar with it, okay? Again, this report is coming from rebuildcreditscores.com. I think it's very imperative that you guys bank Black with some of your money if you don't feel comfortable at all, because we understand we have a lack of education in the Black community, and none of us probably didn't even think that there was even any Black-owned banks. Now, granted, I didn't know it was this many, okay? I knew about 2 or 3 of them. I knew about Carver, I knew about One United, and I knew about this bank called Citizens Trust Bank. As one of the nation's largest Black-owned banks with assets totaling $410 million, Citizens Trust Bank is located throughout Alabama and Georgia. And what I love is we have no excuse why we shouldn't bank Black, because these banks are all around America. Okay, the last bank was in DC. The bank prior to that was like in Kansas, Illinois, Louisiana, etc. Okay, so if you missed some parts of this broadcast, just go and scroll back a little bit and you'll find out information. Okay. All right. See, we got Ashley Hawkins in the room. Nice to see you. Who else we have in the room? We have Ken, just got in, didn't know it was this many either. Okay. We're going to go through them, brother. We're going to go through them. Mechanics and Farmers Bank, MMF Bank, as one of the nation's largest, oldest Black-owned banks with assets totaling $256 million. It was founded back in 1907 and currently has branches located in Winston-Salem, Durham, Raleigh, Greensboro, and Charlotte, North Carolina. And most of their deposits are recycled back into urban communities. I'm so tired of the word urban, because we know urban is just another word for Black, right, guys? Okay, you guys knew that. All right, they got checking and savings accounts. Okay, again, this is a brief overview. The Harbor Bank of Maryland. I never heard of this, and I'm from the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I haven't heard of this one. Founded in 1982. The Harbor Bank of Maryland has assets totaling $265 million. The bank has 7 branches location and primarily serves the Baltimore, Maryland metropolitan area. Okay. The Harbor Bank offers checking, savings, time deposits, credit cards, debit cards, commercial real estate, personal home and improvement, automobile, and other installment and term loans. See, a bank like that is giving you full service. So again, when I talk about real estate, okay, personal home improvement, automobile, and installment, you can do all your banking with this one particular bank. And you know what I've noticed too, ladies and gentlemen? When hackers go after banks, who do they go after? They go after those big banks that's worth billions of dollars, like your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, your US Bank, right? Those are the banks they mostly go after, okay? Again, They have, checking and savings account. Again, brief overview. City National Bank. Unfortunately, it closed last year, but that's another bank, okay? Unfortunately, it closed last year, but that's another one of our banks. First Independence Bank. I believe I've heard of this bank as well, okay? I heard of this bank as well. It's located in Detroit, Michigan, and its assets totaling $286 million for over 48 years. First Independent Bank has been serving the community. These are Black communities that they are serving, okay? So again, we have to learn to support our own, okay? A lot of times when foundational Black Americans get online and they speak Black, we have a lot of naysayers. Sometimes they could be foundational Black Americans. Sometimes they're non-Black, period. But nonetheless, we have to understand that we have been supporting different banks, different financial institutions for way too long. And a portion of your wealth, a portion of your money, $50, $100, I believe that you should be investing and saving with a Black bank. Other than the contract with Black America, other grassroots Black organizations that are pushing for reparations, what can we do as Black Americans to help decrease the wealth gap? One of those ways is having access to capital for we can go out and create and build businesses and also own homes. Also own your own home. Because if you're renting, let me tell you something. Hold on. Let me tell you something. The worst thing that I regret in my life is the amount of times that I've rented. Most of my renting came from the result of me being in the military. Time and time again, I went to different places knowing that I was going to move, so I didn't buy a home. All right. I really didn't want to get stuck. There are some people who actually did really well going to each duty station buying a home. Then there's some people who really got into some trouble because they couldn't sell their home, the particular part of the city that they bought the house in. But I want you to think about this, family. When you rent, what happens to the money that you rent? What happens? Like, say, for instance, if you bought a car, you know that each car payment is going towards your loan in order for you to own that car, right? But when you rent, each rent payment is going to the person who owns those apartments to become absolutely rich and have financial freedom. While you stay there renting, working hard in your little containment size compartment, because we understand that an apartment is just a compartment that is apart from one another, but is joined together in the building. Was that way too much? Probably was. But nonetheless, the point I'm making is you don't own anything. You don't own anything. Now, I know there's a lot of elderly people who love apartments, but I tell people, if you want to get in, if you love the apartment feel because you have like a community or support system that you may need somebody very quickly, I can understand why some people like apartments. But apartment that you own is called a condo. At least go out and own a condo because you can make your condo an Airbnb when you go out of town. There's a lot of things you can do when you own property, when you own something, okay? So we should be really striving to be homeowners, and at the least, at the bare minimum, a condo, okay? A condo. Let's move along. All right. I thought this bank was, no, it's still open. GNG Bank. It says formerly known as ISF Bank, has assets totaling $133 million with branches in Chicago. So if you guys live out there in Chicago, look out for GN Bank, okay? The People's Bank. That's what they're talking about. This is another Black-owned bank, okay? GN Bank, for those of you guys that are living in Chicago, okay? Citizens Savings Bank and Trust. Citizens Savings Bank and Trust. Now, I've never seen this bank, but this bank was back in since 1904. I might have to look into this bank because I'm here in Texas. And as you can tell here, their assets are 107 million with branches in Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, and Alabama. Now, I kind of want to look into this one very quickly. Accounts include free reimbursement. Look at this. Great benefits. Includes fee reimbursement from any ATM online banking and direct deposit. That's for your classic checking. Then they have an e-account, your e-campus checking, right here, ladies and gentlemen. Account benefits include fee reimbursement from any ATM online banking and direct deposit. Then you have your savings account details. It says ATM card, fee reimbursement from any ATM and online banking. I love banks that they know that they're not syndicated nationwide, but they say, hey, if you're going to bank with us and you can't find one of our banks, we're going to reimburse that ATM fee that you pay with that other bank. That's an awesome benefit. I absolutely love it. Let's see here. Ken says, when I was younger, I only wanted rent, so I didn't have to fix anything myself, but ownership is definitely in my plans. I'm glad to hear that, Ken. I'm very, very glad to hear that. All right. Unity National Bank. Unity National Bank has assets totaling in $102 million in Texas. Let me write some of these Texas banks down because I'm about to do some more research for myself. Okay. You should be writing some of these banks down because a lot of you are living in apartments. A lot of you are living on top of each other. And most of you, I would like to believe, have some money. Okay. And I believe you should start owning things. I believe that you should start owning things. Okay. And here's what I've noticed in the community with us. We keep trying to go for these large homes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd rather you have a home around 2,000 square feet sitting on 1 acre of land. There's so much you can do with that. If it's you, if it's a party of three, a 2 to 2,200 square foot home is absolutely enough room from you. Like me and my lady, we beat ourselves in the head when we bought this big old home. We're like, it's only 3 of us in here. We're like, we could have saved so much on so many other resources like electricity and gas that we don't even use. And then the nerve of this community to put us in a co-op. I'm like, we ain't sharing no damn electricity. But supposedly, I talked to a neighbor that said we're not in a co-op in the sense of utilities, supposedly, but our electric bill begs to differ. I'm like, ain't too many people, only 3 of us who are very, energy conservatives, conservative. We not spending $250 of energy. So where y'all getting this number from? I digress. Tri-State Bank of Memphis. I guess this bank is in Memphis, okay? Tri-State Bank of Memphis has assets totaling $94 million with branches in Memphis, Tennessee, founded to constructively change community conditions by providing communities with financial solutions that transform them for the better. Let me tell you something else about Black banks that you guys should be very, very aware of. Black banks also give you financial literacy. They help for you to understand the banking industry, the banking system, and also give you basic information on financial literacy. So again, it's just more than it's putting your money somewhere. It's about people who are also going to invest in you and teach you about what you should do with your money in order for you to have tangibles in your life. And believe me, owning a home is one of the biggest things that you can absolutely do. Okay. Again, they have checking and savings accounts. We're moving right along. United Bank of Philadelphia. So a lot of you guys who are out there in Pennsylvania, look out for the United Bank of Philadelphia. It has assets totaling $56 million with branches in Philadelphia, PA. Now, and again, all of our banks, unfortunately, none of their asset is $300 to $400 million away from $1 billion. We understand all the big white corporate banks have over $1 billion, $50, $100 billion in assets. Why? Because me and you and I, we put our money in where? Those big banks. We don't know about these banks, so now we do. So there's no excuse, family. There's no excuse that you can reach out to these banks. A lot of them are online, and you can open up a bank account today. And I want you to go back because I want you to read some of this information. This is at rebuildcreditscores.com. That way you don't have an excuse why you're not banking black. Okay? Because some of us don't just have the information, and some of us just don't know where to look. Now we do. Commonwealth National Bank. This bank is also in Alabama, has $53 million in assets. Commonwealth National Bank. Optus Bank, $65 million of assets in South Carolina. So if you're in South Carolina, look out for this bank. They are committed to helping all people build wealth and improve their lives regardless of their background or situation. They put it right there up for everybody to read. Listen to this. They are committed to helping all people build wealth and improve their lives regardless of their background or situation. Because I know some of you people right now like, well, you know, my baby mom's, man, she got me on child support, but I got a little bit of money coming in, you know what I'm saying? Well, you can go to Optus Bank and possibly get a home loan and own your own property. And own your own property. Okay, we got somebody who's actually been to the bank. I like to see that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to add, I just want to extend this link out to you guys. You can join me with or without. You can join me with or without your video. But if you have any pertinent information about anything, it's open for discussion. Carver State Bank has assets totaling $42 million with branches in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, with branches in Savannah, Georgia. So if you're in Georgia, look out for Carver State Bank. You know, you have the other Carver Bank that was named after George Washington Carver, which is the federal bank, and this is a Carver State Bank. Okay, they are both related. They are in connection with each other. Al-America Bank. I don't know what they try to get with this one. Al-America Bank has assets totaling $36 million with branches in Birmingham, Alabama. Another Alabama bank. No excuse for you guys not to go out and bank with these banks. Okay? Where we at? Metro Bank. Not to be confused with Metro PCS. Has assets totaling $29 million with branches in Louisville, Kentucky. Metro Bank does not offer standard bank products such as checking, money market, or traditional savings account, but it does offer a bunch of CDs. So if you guys want to get into CDs, which I do not like at all, your money is just tied up for 3 months, a year, 5 years, and your return is 3-4%. You could have made that money times 100 in the stock market by then. All right, Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Another Black-owned institution. Columbia Savings and Loan Association has assets totaling $25 million with branches in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay. They got CDs and IRAs of the product details. Okay. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which up until I met a friend of mine, I didn't know there was that many Black people in Racine and Milwaukee. I did a deep dive inside of Wisconsin. I didn't even know that it was Black people up there like that. The only thing I could think about Wisconsin was Green Bay Packers. That's the only thing I could get from it, okay? So again, ladies and gentlemen, there is a link in the chat. If you guys have any comments, any additional information, one of the subscribers said that they've been to the Commonwealth Bank. I would love to hear your experience there if you want to chime in. She said, I would like to click on after you are done with the bank. Sister, I'm done with the banks. I would love to hear some of your information regarding the bank that you actually visit and what we can expect. I love people with personal experience. That way we can have a discussion because that's going to entice and encourage people to go out and invest and put their money with these banks. So I'll leave the lines open for a couple of seconds here as she gets this message. We might be partially behind. Let's see if we can have her chime in. We're just gonna give it a couple of seconds, ladies and gentlemen. All get on one accord here. I mean, I'm personally going to look into the Unity, National Bank, and Citizen Savings Bank. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, you're live. What's your name and where you calling from?
Oh, hi, I'm Stacey. You called me Miss One. We can keep that going.
Okay, and where you from, Miss One?
Alabama.
Alabama. There's a lot of Black-owned banks in Alabama. So
right.
What's on your mind?
We have a few Commonwealths. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah, we do have some Black Bank. I've dealt with Commonwealth Bank. Very nice brand bank. I do not have an account with them. And why I don't is because I had some property that I was looking to do a cash out refi for, and they were able to assist me like I wanted. So I just kind of moved on to someone else at the time. But what I would love to see more of, especially in the Blacker neighborhood, instead of just the typical banks, because it seems like credit unions maybe have a little bit more, get better interest rate, more bang for your buck. But I did see your presentation. Cubes. Well, I came in on part of it. Ice Cube's plan. I did look over it. I didn't break through it, but I did read it. Looks pretty good. But I just want to kind of tell a situation that I guess I was probably a young kid, or I don't even know if I was born back then, but there was a situation where we had a lot of housing. And this, maybe ways that if the government truly wanted to assist us with becoming owners, they could. Where a lot of houses were built on this now defunct military base. And so they were trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Hundreds or thousands of houses here, and there's no one here. So apparently they put out an ad and said, hey, you guys bring us $500, we give you the keys. Because at this point they were making no money anyway. And here in Alabama, we have a program, the Neighborhood Renewal Program, where you look at properties that are most of them are in Black neighborhoods. They may delinquent on taxes for about a few years. You can apply for these programs. They'll get you the title, and I think the cost of the title is about $2,500 that they roll to you. And you talking
about they call them the tax lien or the tax title?
Well, you can get the tax lien properties, but no, this is an actual city program. I think other states kind of have something, might call it the land bank.
Okay.
Where you can buy the property directly from the state. You're not buying in a title. And they typically start off around $2,500. And a lot of these cities and states also have grants that go hand in hand with them to help with the repairs. So you love to see something like that to kind of rebuild the neighborhoods, especially in addendum with having the credit unions, having them be the SOs. Because for the most part, I feel like people should just be able to get in with cash, get the grants or whatever to fix up the properties. And because I do know some of us are not as financially savvy, maybe set up the insurance and the taxes to go through an escrow account through a Black run bank or credit union. That's what but there's definitely, I heard you say you live in Texas. There's a lot of land here. There's a lot of property that definitely has potential, and it's just kind of sitting up rotten. And it would be good if we could at least get first priority to these things, because the opportunity zones is not for us in general.
Definitely not. My thing with that uninherited and unbought land that's, like you saying, is basically the can inside of Alabama. I'm pretty sure every state has some form of it, but nonetheless, the problem in the Black community, which we all should know by now, is the lack of capital. When I broke down Ice Cube's contract with Black America, there was one specific thing that I really wanted to point out, that I absolutely support the brother and I love the plan. Okay. But the one thing that he's missing is the one most prominent thing that's going to help decrease the wealth gap in America, and that's actual money. Because if we look at the amount of money that America has obtained from slavery is around $14 trillion, and it's still accumulating in interest. So about $14 trillion. And if you roughly say there's 40 million foundational Black Americans, then each one of us deserve $350,000. Okay, so that's the one thing that I believe that's missing from the plan, which I think the reason why he didn't put inside the plan, because he probably knew that is not going to have a chance in hell. But there's no tangible grant amount. One of the first things that he notably put inside of the contract with Black America is a lending reform, again, which gets us tied into loans, but it still doesn't pay for being a descendant of slave, the amount of money that those slaves actually accumulated and made this country very, very rich off their backs. So this is something that I wanted to see, because maybe someone like yourself, maybe certain prominent Black people in certain neighborhoods have that amount of money to go out and buy those houses and or that land. But there's a large portion of African Americans that can't even come close to scoundering up $2,500, $3,000 in order to get that money. Now, that could be an argument, because I know some people get large sums of money during their tax return. They had a portion of that money given to them in a stimulus check, and also unemployment benefits. But again, I don't know each person's individual struggles for me to say, well, you could take that tax money and go do this. But it's just engraved in this country that we are always the bottom feeders and we are always the crumblers, the getters. So I wish we knew more information about those programs that you're referring to. I knew about one program here, but it was mostly catered to veterans, about getting land at a very discounted price. That's about it. Now, what you're talking about, you're not even talking about the lien. You're talking about the actual deed that you can buy outright for $2,500, because you were talking about how you want to do a cash refi. And I know a lot of those small banks, that they don't want to get too risky with that. But you said something that wanted me to give you a little bit more information that a company that I actually use. Let me show you this very quickly. If you go out to this website right here, they will actually find you a bank when you do it with real estate property that you can actually do your cash refi with. Because you kind of want to kind of do the rinse, recycle, wash again. You want to buy a property, rehab it, take the equity out, cash refi it, buy another one, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So a place like this, unfortunately, is not Black owned, but a company like this will find an investor bank for you that you can actually do that strategy, so you can buy multiple properties.
Okay.
The only difference is you may have to put down 20%. But if you're trying to get into the space, what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to buy homes that are under 70,000, now I have to travel out of my way about 30 minutes north to find properties at that price point. But nonetheless, I am still searching. It's very, very hard to find investment properties that I want to rent out. I don't know if you're into flipping or renting. I'm in more hours, so I want to get into the renting space. Say what?
Well, I am a landlord. I did get a really good deal on auction.com, paid 25, close to 30 in that property out, but I would like to pull my money back out so I can continue the site. I'm too crazy about being a landlord. But yeah, it's a income stream. So do you have any rental property?
I'm still in the market. I've been teaching it for a very, very long time. Because I took all the courses, took all the information, and a lot of my closest friends are actually millionaires based upon their flipping and also their renting strategies. And I get a lot of my information because me personally, when you're in the courses and the books, you don't have real life experience. So I have to go out and get their experience, and I use it as content to inform people on how to do these things. But I've been looking for the past 2 months, and I had one house under contract, but when I had the house inspected, okay, so the house was listed at 70,000. I put in an offer. I briefly looked at it. I walked in. I was there for about 30 minutes to 58.5. So okay, so he actually accepted 58,500, and he had the price listed at 70 grand. The only thing that was new on the home was a new roof, but the house needed to be rehabbed. I had to put, once I got the inspection done, and it had a mold problem, and the porch needed to be redone, and some of the kitchen floor needed to be gutted and redone. The bathroom needed to be gutted and redone. The work alone, the rehab alone would have been $50,000. So if I would have bought the home at 58.5, then I would have added another 50,000 to that. Then I would have did the comps on the house, the comparables in that neighborhood. It's only 110. I would have been down over the course of a 3-period time. So I went back during my option period and I said, hey, because of the inspection, because of the mold problem, because of the possible issues with electricity, because when the inspector came out, certain things he was doing to the outlets and the electrical system is supposed to trip and the breaker is supposed to pop. It wasn't doing that. So that's another issue. So when I got my guys out there, some contractors I teamed up with, they said, yeah, man, we can do around 45 to 50 grand. Once I found that out, under my option period, I said, hey, my new offer is 43,000. Okay, because I needed to stay under 100,000 because again, the comps in that area was anywhere from 110,000 to 150,000. But those $150,000 homes were totally renovated to new count, like new everything. Plus, they were 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. This home was 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and the outdoor fence had to be done. There's so many things that had to be done. I'm gonna show you some of this. Go ahead, go and respond to that while I look for these pictures.
Yeah, you're doing right. Take your time. You're talking about buying and holding. That is not weak of heart. A lot of stuff comes up. Like I said, I got a good deal. If I could have went back, I would have probably took another 10 grand off, even though I have as far as what the property is still pretty good. But it was just a lot. We replaced part of the roof. And then, of course, as we pulled it up, we saw that there was termite damage because this was on an island. Inspection, just me going and walking around and walking partially into the home. Yeah, I mean, it's worth the money, but it was just a lot of work. And, a lot of things just typically pop up. But I also invest of my here in the state of Alabama. Depending on how old they are, they just recently changed the law. You can actually get the property, get the certificate, and you can rent out the property yourself. If it's
but you don't own the property, though.
You do not own the property, correct? Have possession of the property through the state.
But the state still owns it.
Well, no, the state, you own the state's right to possess, but you only have a certificate. After 3 years, it converts to a tax deed. And then if you want to go further and get the title from, sue and get the title, you can.
Okay. So here's the home I was referring to earlier.
Okay.
Now, as you can tell, this home has the large old school heaters. This home was built back in 1920, 1915. They still had these old heaters here. As you can tell, they got the foam. Now, the floors in the living room in this area, this is also like a dining room area. It has this large heater there with the gas coming out the floor right here. And again, it was a lot of work that had to be redone. Okay. Right. Now, in most of the rooms, I just need to be painted. I think I would have probably did new ceiling fans. Believe that's just in the kitchen. That looks horrible. The kitchen floor had the linoleum cover, but under that, this floor had a hole in it. You can actually see the beam of the home. Okay. Also, yeah, you guys are seeing this is outside. This is a fence caving in the fence needs to be reset, redone, replaced. Okay. Here's the backdrop where they added this partition onto the back of the home and they put a wash and dryer in it. Okay. So, of course, the home is just totally trashed. All the sidings of the home needs to be redone. Look at this outlet right here. There's just no cover on, just open for rain and anything else to get on it. Okay. So it's a horrible property, but I can see the value in it. Now, here's the back of the home coming outside the back of the house. If you see this little white thing here, that's the sewage drain that shouldn't be there. But they added this partition onto the back of the home to make the house bigger. But
is that what is that?
It's a sewage drainage from the home that they just put steps on it. They just put some steps on it. Okay. So I'll have to get that probably moved. Here are the sidings from the home. The windows need repaneling and re-siding here. There's no insulation really, so probably just need to be replaced. Okay. Again, the siding of the home, that needs to be cut down. You have this fence arbitrarily placed here. Maybe they had like a dog or some chickens. I probably was going to tear that down. And again, the fence is horribly put. All this need to be cut. Okay, you got trash back here. Then you have this garage, this structure that is totally unsafe that will have to excavate from the property that we estimated it will probably cost around $3,000 to $5,000. Because you got to get those big dumpsters set outside, maybe a 40-footer, and then you have to have people tearing it down. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to lie to you. I might go get some local Mexicans from Home Depot.
Right. Well,
but all this
my dad
yeah,
flipper,
all this trash.
We got his crew and we had to tear down the storage unit that was infested. We had to tear down the carport, and we had to tear down an illegal addition that was also termite infested from the property. Yeah, but we did a lot of that work ourselves. We just got a crew and just did it. But yeah.
And I don't know what I was going to do with this chicken coop. I was going to sell it on eBay. Don't know what I was going to do with that. Here's another part of the fence that's broken down. Let's see here. Still looking at this property. That's that little drain right there in the steps, which is a trip hazard. Somebody can sue me.
Right.
Here's that back partition that they added on, showing the floor. Here's the kitchen. This whole kitchen needs to be gutted and redone. Under the sink, there's 1,000% mold spores in it. Spores everywhere. Okay. This whole floor is done for. It's a walk-in hazard. What else? I took a lot of pictures. Now, this used to be the back of the house. Okay. That used to be the back door, and that used to be the window. But that partition, that add-on they put on the back covers that up. But they never put drywall to fix that up to say, hey, this is an actual room now. But it showed you it was the back of the house. They just painted it and put some boards up. But nonetheless, this is a lot of work that had to be done to the house. Okay.
A lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the potential in it, but that is a lot of work.
Exactly. This is the bathroom that needs to be regutted. The floor, as you can tell, the linoleum is coming up. So you'll have to get everything out of there. So again, not to go through every picture, there was just a lot of work to be redone. A lot of work to be redone, nonetheless. So again, I'll show you that webpage in case you want to contact you. I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. I just use them as a source. They will write you up a pre-approved letter based upon your word until you actually get into your financials. And then, yeah, that's when the real rubber meets the road, so to speak. But nonetheless, so far, they've been pretty good, in my opinion. I have no issues out of them getting pre-approved letters. But again, I probably looked at, at least 10 properties Okay, some properties I don't even want to fail to mention. I walked in and walked right out because I already knew that it's going to be at least 100 grand to fix this home. And I really don't want to go with 30 grand, but nonetheless, when you're trying to buy a home at a low price point, you probably have to put about anywhere from 30 to 50 grand into it to actually meet the comps in that particular area. Okay.
Right. Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Another alternative is conventional home loans. I mean, we were just talking about, I don't know if it would go under for reparations, because this is something that actually look into it. You know, you can look into your tax liens, but you're right, that does require you to have some level of disposable income. But and accordingly, if that means you need to pick Uber and Lyft shifts, you know, if there's a will, we didn't make it this long.
That's true.
That's
true. We do have the money. I will say that. We do have the money in the sense of how we can obtain it, just the way you're saying. Now, what was the name of that program in Alabama so the viewers can hear you again, so they can possibly get inside there? What's the name of these programs?
Good Renewal Program was the name of the program. Look at tax delinquent, vacated type properties. And they pretty much sell them to you for $2,500. It's not a quick process because you do have to fill out the required paperwork. But then later on, once you have the title, I don't know how they deal with out-of-state investors, but I think if you're living within the city or within the state, I do know that I remember them having $10,000 to fix up the outside of the house. But of course, you know, if it's something you can cut corner away, you know, you might be able to move some of that money on the inside, depending on what type of work it needs to be done. But most states have something like a land bank, and they all pretty same way.
All right. Well, thank you, sister, once again for your input and your knowledge. I do appreciate it. You have a great day.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that you guys stayed with me. Hopefully you got some good information with Black-owned banks as well as real estate. Again, the programs that she was referring to, if you live in Alabama or have any kinfolk in Alabama, the program was the Neighborhood Renewal Program. And also stated in some of your states, you may have a land bank, which you can, that may have also programs that mirror the Neighborhood Renewal Program that's out of Alabama. But nonetheless, most states have a land bank. Okay. So thank you once again for joining me today. Hope you got some great information. Go and support your communities with Black banks. Nonetheless, this is Financial Literacy 101. Learn money and be inspired. You guys have a great and wonderful day. I'm out.